You are listening to Ideas and Leaders podcast. I'm Elena Paweta, Executive Communication Coach and TEDx organizer. With each episode, I'll share with you communication tips and ideas from top business leaders to help you excel in your career. Today, my guest is Paddy Kennedy. She is an amazing coach, and I had a pleasure on being in one of her programs a few years ago for women in leadership, which had a great impact on me. And I'm really happy to have her now here. Paddy is a founder of Kennedy Communication Studio. She is a coach with many years of experience. So I'm very happy to have you today with us, Paddy. Hi.
Hi. It's wonderful to be here. It's great to be here. And before we start, if I could just take 1 second to congratulate you on your own success recently with your webinar. I love watching all of the women that were in that leadership group, and I've been keeping an eye on you and watching, and I just want to say congratulations on the really good work that you're doing.
Thank you so much. And I think that a big part of this success is also what we had in this Women in Leadership group, where you empowered us to move forward. And I must say that this is true, that I'm also observing a lot of women who were in our group, and I can see that they are actually more courageous, they are more confident, they're moving forward. So that is why this is one of the reasons why I invited you today to the podcast, so that we can discuss how we can empower women in business, empower women in leadership. How can we help them to find their true, authentic voice? But before we move into this topic, Paddy, maybe can you tell a little bit about yourself and how did you get to where you are right now?
Well, now at my age, because I'm just about to turn 68, so the journey has been long and it's been winding. A winding road, but it's been a wonderful experience. I began coaching 49 years ago when I was 19 years of age as a professional figure skater. I was an almost Olympic figure skater. I did not make the Olympic team. I ended up very disabled and unable to carry on competing. And so then I turned professional, and I chose, rather than go on the ice shows, I chose to coach. And so that was, as I say, 49 years ago. It ended up that coaching figure skating was too difficult still. The cold of the skating rink, it's a tough job. And I ended up in a wheelchair, and I had to, learn how to walk again. I had to really reinvent myself at about 26. And the one thing that was constant through this whole long journey was my voice. I was very, very fortunate to have a mother. My mom was a single mom in the 50s and 60s. She had 4 kids. And she was determined that all of us would speak well. And every night after dinner, we would have elocution classes. We would have to speak clearly. We would have to do exercises. And then she would give us impromptu topics that we had to speak to. This was, after dinner. We'd put the dishes in the sink to soak in really hot water, and then she'd sit down with her 4 children and she would make us speak, because she was very concerned to say it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And so she really wanted us to make a way for ourselves in the world, and never, to be honest, she didn't want anybody to know that we came from what they call the wrong side of the tracks, from being raised by a poor single mom. So when I lost my skating, it took me a number of years, but there was always this thing about me and communication. So I really began Kennedy Communication Studio, I would say, in the early to mid 80s. And I was working with PhD students and master's degree students, first of all, on editing their dissertations and their theses. And then, of course, it got into helping them to stand up in front of their committees and defend. So I guess you could say that that's really what got me into communication. But I was still really struggling with this illness that I have and with this breakdown in my body. And so, you know, I wasn't able to really work the basic 9 to 5. I had to continue to be an entrepreneur. It was really, that was all I could do because the illness wouldn't really allow me to work 9 to 5. So one thing that people kept saying to me is, you have a really good voice for radio. I didn't know if that meant you have a good voice for radio or you don't have a good face for TV. Because anyway, in 1990, I think it was, still combating this illness, still trying to get back up on my feet, I enrolled in the National Institute of Broadcasting in Toronto. I'm Canadian. And we had the option, we had to study both television as well as radio. And then we came to the fork in the road where we had to decide which field would we go into. And I chose radio because I love, love, love the human voice. It is the greatest instrument of all of the instruments in the world. And it is the hardest to play. But do you know what was so amazing? My first day walking into the National Institute of Broadcasting, and right there on the blackboard, it's not what you say, but how you say it. And I knew I had come home. So I carried on, and even then I had to, as a radio journalist, I had to still keep working part-time because of my health. But you know, in those years, those 25 years when I was trying to get back up on my feet, I traveled into a lot of countries. Western medicine couldn't help me. And so I began to look for alternative and complementary ways of dealing with this sickness that I had. It was very interesting because without fail, they all said to me, if you don't come to grips with your story, if you don't know who you are, where you come from, and where you're going, you will always be sick. I had a rough childhood. I had a violent father. That's why we had a single mom raise us. And so when I got into broadcast journalism, now I really began to, because I would interview and I would hear people's stories. And I began to really understand the significance, not only of their story, but I began to understand the significance of my story. So over the years, there's a lot I'm just going to skip over because, as I say, at my age, the road is long. But I, at one point, was working, teaching meditation and healing meditation and really trying to help people. And I discovered again, many of them were dying. Many cancer patients, and they were dying. And I knew my meditation techniques that I had been taught myself over all those 25 years, I knew they weren't going to heal these people. But I wanted to do some conscious dying with them. So I would go to them and I would say, what is one thing that I can help you deal with before you pass? And without fail, 100% of them said, I would like for my family to know who I am. I would like for my children to know my story. All I've ever been is the wallet. The dad that goes to work in the morning, comes home at night, Dad, can I have $50? Dad, can I have this? Dad, and so many of them. And again, to women with breast cancer who would say, if my husband, they'd rip open their shirts and show me scars, rip off their wigs. If my husband tells me one more time I'm beautiful, I'm going to kill him. Why won't anybody listen to my story? Why won't anybody accept me right here, right now? And again, I thought, okay, Patty, there it is again. You have to focus on communication. You have to help people, just as all those healers helped me find my voice and help me to articulate my story. Now I must pay it forward. Now I must do this for people wherever I can. And so these years later now, with the help of Skype and the internet, I've actually coached people from over 90 countries. You and the Women's Leadership Group, as well as all of those beautiful sisters who are in that group. And it's my great joy. It's just my great joy, and I feel very gifted and blessed. So I'm trying to keep my answer short, but that's probably the longest answer that I'll give, because it's been a long, long journey. But I feel so fortunate, I'm so blessed to be doing what I'm doing.
Yeah, you have an amazing story, Paddy, and I can see that you have this why in yourself, why you're doing what you're doing, and this is amazing. I know that you're working with women a lot, and I saw that you have a great project now to help women to find their true, authentic voice. So how, of course, we cannot cover, everything. It is a very big topic, but if you could shortly describe what your project is about and what do you want to focus on, how do you want to help women to find this authentic voice?
Well, there's a couple of things there. First of all, there is what I call the duality of voice. There is the finding the authentic voice. That is what I call the platform when women work with me. Anybody, even CEOs of big companies, men, when they work with me, I ask them to articulate what they know to be true, beautiful, and good. Then I ask them to declare it. Because to me, this is the foundation of authenticity. Who am I? Where do I come from? What's my story? What is true to me? What's my truth? Because otherwise you can't speak. You can't be authentic as a leader, as a speaker, if you don't know what your truth is. If you don't understand the way in which you see the beauty in the world and how you define in this crazy world what is good. So that's the first part of the voice. The second part is the spoken voice, as I said earlier to you, the greatest instrument of them all, and yet the most difficult to play. And so I learned this. This is why I chose radio, because I wanted to learn how to play this instrument. Now, there's just one more added thing that is really driving my passion. When I was a radio journalist, it was in 1993, I had the wonderful opportunity of interviewing the Dalai Lama. He was in Vancouver, Canada, my hometown. I wanted to interview him about land claims, because many of your listeners will know that our First Nations people, the Aboriginal or Indigenous, had been put off their land through treaties and whatnot. And so he was coming to town, and I was given the opportunity through the company I was freelancing for to have a private interview with him. And we got talking about being taken off the land. And he said to me, it will be men, and I love men, so please don't take this as a man bashing. It will be men who will take us to the brink of disaster with all of their love of guns and war. And it will be the women of the world who will bring us back from the edge of disaster. And he asked me if I would help by creating groups of women who would use their voices to pull us back from the brink of destruction. Now, I've been trying to do this since 1993, but I think that now is the time. There's almost an urgency right now. When I look at the studies of women, the number of women, now I see today that Germany has come up with a plan that they are really going to increase the number of women in the board. Because right now, in the boardrooms around the world, women are only about 8%. Now, this is not because anything that men are doing wrong. It is up to us to speak up, to be heard, because when we are heard, we are seen. I want women to come out of being invisible, and I want to help them find their truth, find their guts and the grit on the inside. And then I want to teach them how to use this magnificent voice so that people will lean in. Because, my dear, we are 100 years away from equality, from parity in the workforce between men and women. And I think our daughters and our daughters' daughters and our great-granddaughters are relying on us. I think now is the time. COVID is here. We're going to come out of it. There will be a new normal. Let us seize this opportunity. Let us stand up now. I really want to develop a global community of women. See, you know, God love the Dalai Lama. He was after me a long time. Well, I've been trying, but I don't think that women have been ready collectively. Now, in working in all of these countries with women all around the world, we all face the same issues. It doesn't matter if you come from a Muslim country, whatever country, whatever political background, socialization and fear and a lack of confidence that we have. This is my burning desire. I work with men because I work in the corporate world, but my heart of hearts is to allow women's voices to be heard, because the silence of women's voices is deafening. And I want us to stand up, speak up, be proud, be confident, and contribute, because now is the time.
Yes, this is very inspiring what you say, and I must say that in my work also, I'm trying to focus on women, and I think that I'm also continuing your work and trying to empower women to speak up. And I face, and I think that you faced a lot of this in your career, that women they tend to be silent, and they tend to not to speak up a lot. And on one hand, it might be caused by lack of confidence. On the other hand, they don't feel the need very often to speak up. So how would you recommend, what would you recommend to build up this confidence in speaking up? What to do? Yeah.
You know, I love that question. Thank you for that question, because it really is. I mean, you know, I think above everything, I'm a confidence coach. I mean, I teach leadership and I coach in communication, but really, I think I'm a confidence coach. I think that's what I work the hardest to instill in people. So I believe, and I'm not the only one who believes this, other leadership coaches believe it as well, that confidence is based on evidence. I think one reason why women say they don't see a need is because they don't feel like they're enough. When I was first asked to work with the women that you were the group in, and many groups of women I've worked with since, I asked questions. What holds you back? What holds you back? Well, I don't know enough. I don't have enough time. I don't have enough experience. Not enough, not enough, not enough. So I wrote the program called You Are Enough. It's something ingrained in us that, you know, there's statistics that show that a man could have 60% of the job qualifications and he will confidently apply for that job. And a woman could have 95% of the qualifications and be hesitant to apply for the job. We are somehow trained for this perfectionism, and I'm not enough, and I'm not enough. We've got to stop. When we look at the world right now, in places where COVID-19 has been handled well, it's because there have been women leaders. It's just a fact. Across Canada, in the provinces where it's been handled well, it's because there's women who are the Minister of Health. Throughout New Zealand, throughout the country, throughout the world. It is time for us. So confidence is based on evidence, and there are two things that women, I feel from my work, are missing about themselves. They don't look back. You know, we're so busy. We go through difficult times where we have this immense bravery. I mean, giving birth is perfect. And we forget, life keeps us moving on so quickly that we never have time to celebrate our bravery. We are brave. As a matter of fact, I find that we are quite often more brave than our male counterparts. But we somehow don't value our opinions. We don't value our thoughts. That's because I don't think we are allowed to stand up and declare to the world what we know to be true. So confidence is based on evidence. One thing, and you may remember this as an exercise we did in the group that you were in, you've got to write down 150 things that you have accomplished. You get to about the first 70 and it's okay, and then it gets really hard. But then, as they say, the devil's in the details. When you do those last 75, you, oh my gosh, I forgot about that. Oh yeah. And all of a sudden you read it and you understand. You put that together with maybe, I always ask women, write 10 moments of bravery, 10 little vignettes, little tiny stories of when you were brave. When I get women to do this exercise, you know, they cry. I forgot this, Patty. I forgot I had this courage. It's because we're so busy. We're mothers, we're working, we've got so much going on in a crazy, crazy world. And the workload distribution at home is still primarily up to women to do most of the work at home, as well as maintain their jobs. Who's got time to remember these things? But yet it's so important. So I think when women say there's no need for women to speak up, that is a sign that they are lacking confidence and they have forgotten their own beautiful, beautiful bravery. It's in every woman I am coached. And I don't know, in 49 years, you can only imagine how many women I have coached. We all have it, and we all forget about it. And so that's, to me, the main thing. And you know what else is really important, and one thing that's so important in the work that I'm doing? It is time for we women to come together. No more throwing each other under the bus. In my 49 years of a coach, it has not been male coaches who have tried to stop. It has been women. We must stop being competitive. Male energy, that's what the Chinese call yang energy. I really want women to tap into the feminine. I don't mean hair and makeup and nails. I mean yin energy, intuition, understanding. We have been socialized to that competition, and it's not our true selves. All things are born from darkness into light. All things come from feminine energy. Everything that is born comes from what the Chinese call yin energy. We ought to be proud and confident just by being born women. It's an amazing thing.
Yes, this is indeed amazing what you mentioned, this exercise. When we appreciate, when we think of our achievements, what we did. And I remember myself doing this exercise when first things that come to your mind when you have to list all the achievements you did. Those are big achievements. Yes, you think of, okay, I defended my PhD dissertation, I ran a marathon, and then you're like, okay, so what else? And then you start thinking, okay, so maybe I did this and this and this, and you start thinking of all those things you completely forgot about. And it is so powerful because I think that we are very much focused on what we need to achieve and on our to-do list, but we completely forget about the things we achieved before. That's why I think this this indeed gives a lot of confidence. And Paddy, how do you think women can find the courage to speak up especially in the boardrooms which are dominated by men, and sometimes women prefer to stay in the shadow and not to sit at the table. What would you recommend to change this?
Well, you're absolutely right. Studies show that about 75% of the time, when women are in the minority or when they are in the boardroom, we will opt to be silent. And then some young kid or a man next to us will say exactly what's on our mind. And they get all the praise and the accolades, and we have remained invisible. Now, there's no easy fix for this. You know, there's that little story, I don't know if you have it in Europe, but the little choo-choo train called The Little Engine That Could. And he's trying to get up a hill, little train engine. And he's like, I think I can. So he gets to the top, and then on his way down, he says, I knew I could. And that's very much a metaphor for us. Like, we know in our heart of hearts that what it is that we have to say is valuable. But there's some dialogue that goes on inside of us, all of us. Well, our mouth goes dry, our heart starts to pound. We don't want to be made to feel stupid. There's a lot of fear. There's a lot of retribution that happens. Or if you say something in an assertive voice, they call you a bitch. I mean, there's a lot, you know, when a man is assertive, they call him a leader. When we're assertive, they use the B word on us. But we've got to be that little engine that could. Listen, for me, it's not a feminist political thing. It's a humanist thing. Why is the world so out of balance with the environment? Why are there wars? Why are there these things? Here I am in the Middle East, this thing going on in Yemen, which Yemen borders on. It's the greatest humanitarian crisis of our modern time. Why are these things happening? You tell me, where are the women in those discussions to go in and invade these countries? Where are the women saying, yeah, I think we should get ourselves some bomber planes and some heavy-duty artillery? And wait, where are the women? They're not there. The absence of our voice, it's not feminism, although feminism to me is being a humanist. But this is not a political thing. This is a human thing. We are lopsided. The earth is our mother. We need to be taking better care of our mother. We understand this because many of us are mothers. So it's not, we have an expression in North America, I'm going to double dare you. As a matter of fact, I'm going to triple dare you. I'm going to raise the bar and say, I just dare you. Just be that little engine that could. Your heart will pound, your mouth will go dry, your head will ache. But I promise you, all of you who have not yet taken that step, after you take that step once or twice, you'll want to do it again. You'll want to speak up. You'll be respected. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. We're smart. We can figure out a way to say what it is that needs to be said. We must value ourselves. There's no magical pill. There's no magic formula. It's just take courage. We all have courage. I don't know what the real etymology of the word courage is, the root word, but I was taught in school and I love it. And some people say it's not true, but it's a folk etymology of courage, cool, from the French heart, and âge, the heart of ages. I believe that every one of us on this planet has courage. We have our ancestors in us. We have everything in us. We have courage. We know in our heart of hearts what needs to be done. We know. There's not an answer, a question that we have. We also do not have the answer. So there's no magic pill. If there were, I would be manufacturing it and I would be distributing it to women around the world. You've got to value yourself. You must dare to value yourself. That what I have to say is right and just and fair and good. If they laugh at me today, I will say it again tomorrow. I will keep saying it until they stop. That's why this sound of the voice is so important. Because when we're nervous, we get this voice. The vocal cords get tight, and then we get this kind of voice. And then nobody wants to hear this kind of voice. But when we believe in ourselves, when we believe in our own value, We are born, we are alive. There's only one of us through all eternity. We have to have value, otherwise we wouldn't be here. So that's that, you know, there's no, as I keep saying, there's no magic pill, but I ask each one of your women listening, young or old, just take the chance. And please give them my email address at the end, because if they take the chance and it fails, I want them to email me. And I will be there to help them do it again, to support them, to remind them the world is waiting for us. We cannot be silent anymore. The world is so lopsided. The environment, wars, famine, COVID. The world's waiting for us.
Yes, thank you for this message. I have 2 daughters myself, and I think that this is that they are motivating me to support women and to support women in leadership, especially because we are lacking women in leadership position, and they need this encouragement, they need this support. So I am really happy to hear that you are supporting women all over the world, and I'm sure that all your students they are able to speak up and to, you know, spread the message even further. So I'm sure that what you're doing is much bigger than maybe you only think you're doing, that you're spreading your message all over the world. So thank you very much, Paddy. And let's sum up. So what are the main things that women need to focus on to develop their authentic voice? So we were talking about valuing ourselves, about thinking that I am enough. Yes. So what else? Let's have the recap.
You know, there's an old native Indian legend from my part of the world in Western Canada, and it's about the 2-headed snake named Sissy. And Sissy comes after everybody, and he's terrified. And he is ready just to, both heads glom onto your face and suck the soul right out of you. But all Sissy is ever looking for is the truth. So when you see Sissy, you must stand tall and stand firm and declare your truth. And that's all he's ever looked for. And once you declare your truth, he leaves you alone. As a matter of fact, then, according to legend, now the dreamers will come. Now you will be ready to step into your true life. So here's what I tell all of my students to do, and I challenge your women listeners. Do what's called stream of consciousness writing or free writing. Set your phone clock for 5 minutes. Answer, first of all, this question. These things I know to be true. And then just write a list, no paragraphs, no editors, because the editor is a completely different part of you than the creator is. Just write, and you can do this exercise repeatedly. Write it down. When the 5 minutes is up, put your pen down, and then I don't care if you're alone or if you're in a group of women, stand up and declare what you have just written. These things I know to be true. And then when you have finished that one, maybe give yourself a day or two, because you really want to internalize this. And knowing your truth is the most important. Then do the same exercise, 5 minutes, stream of consciousness writing, no editors allowed. To me, beauty is. Same thing. When you're finished, stand up in your office all by yourself and declare it, because there's no point in just writing it, you see. We need to declare. We need to make strong statements just so that we hear ourselves. And then finally, the third thing is, to me, good is. Same thing, 5 minutes, stream of consciousness. When you're done, stand up and say it out loud and listen to yourself and internalize it. And you can do this exercise over and over. In the webinar that I'm giving tonight and tomorrow, this is the exercise we're going to do. In the book that I'm handing out to them, a little 35-page booklet, these are the exercises for finding your authentic voice. And then from there, you get into a discussion of your values, where your values come from. You need to know yourself. You know, authentic and author come from the same root, Greek word. I mean, the story of your life, to write the story, to know the story. When you know, the whole basis of authentic leadership is to know your story, to know where you come from, what leaders have influenced you, how to be and how not to be. Where do your values come from? Where did you get those values? What values are negotiable? This is authentic leadership. And you can't be an authentic leader if you don't have your authentic voice. So again, it comes down to courage and to believe in ourselves. You know, I study with a woman named Mary Morrissey. She always reminds us that, first of all, there will never be another one. There will never be another you in all eternity. And we have this day today that in all of the history of time and in all in future, this day has never been lived until right now. So we come with our gifts, with our right to be here and to live our true self on this day and every day that has never, ever been lived before and will never be lived again. And the magnitude, the vastness of those things, if that doesn't help us to understand that we have a right to be here, we have a right to speak, I don't care if you believe in God or not, it doesn't matter. It's just a fact. What's the first thing we do when we're born? We raise our voice. And if we don't, oh my God, all hell breaks loose. They're bringing in doctors, they're smacking you, they're doing everything. We have a right as citizens of the world to speak, and we owe it to ourselves, to the children, and to the world. And one thing I want to say about women and empowering women to speak, it benefits the men as much as it benefits us. It's not just for women. Your marriage, your relationships get better when you stand in your truth and be who you are.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for this. So this exercise we can recommend to write out the things that I know to be true. To me, the beauty is, and to me, the good is, to get to know ourselves better, first of all, and after this, to work on our true, authentic voice and on our story.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you very much, Paddy. And if you, our listeners, would want to contact you and to ask you more questions, how it is better to contact you, where, on which social media or email?
Well, you can email me. Now, if you notice, the spelling of my name is Paddy. It's an Irish, I'm named after my grandfather. So I'm the only female Paddy Kennedy. So if you lose track and you can just remember my name, you can always find me there. My email address, you see behind me, Communicate Success. My website is communicatesuccess.com. So if you can remember Paddy with 2 D's at Communicate Success, that's what it's all about, .com, you'll find me there. You can find me on LinkedIn. And you can find me on Facebook. Now, I have 2 Facebook pages, one that I started a long time ago that I never used. So look for the one that's got a picture of me updated, looking more like this, that has a lot of posts. So you can contact me any which way. But the best way, really, because in today's world, you get so many LinkedIn messages and so many Facebook messages. I like emails because then I can go, oh yeah, I haven't answered that email, and I just scroll down. There it is. It's easy. So email's my preferred choice. And I want your listeners to know that I mean this from the bottom of my heart. I would like to be made available. So if you have questions, anytime you're lacking in your courage or your bravery, write me, correspond, and maybe I can help you deep dive into yourself and find that beauty that's in every one of us. So please feel free to reach out to me. I'm busy, so I can't give you an immediate response probably, but I'll respond.
Thank you. Thank you, Paddy. I will put the links to your social media and also your email under the episode of our podcast so that our listeners can contact you. And thank you so much for the conversation and good luck with your webinars.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for listening to Ideas and Leaders podcast. Did you enjoy this episode? Let me know that you listened by tagging me in your LinkedIn profile and using a hashtag Ideas and Leaders. See you in the next episode.